Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest #1 comic book issues that I read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you guys love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, I think you came to the right place. So why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button. Alright guys, so before we get started, I just gotta give a quick shout out to Sidekick. If you want to protect your comic book collection, go ahead and check this out. What happens when you start a new box with too much empty space? Your books slide, they slouch, they flop, they bend, they crease, and now your books are ruined. But what's the solution? Well, pick up a Sidekick today. Be the hero of your comic collection. The Sidekick fits firmly in your short box to keep those comics upright and prevent them from falling. So guys, check out Sidekick today. There is a link in my description box below. This product is made in the USA. It offers free shipping, and if you use my promo code Slayer15, you'll also get 15% off. And also, if that is not good enough, guys, when you make a purchase for Sidekick, there is a portion of the proceeds go to Comic Book for Kids. So they are a proud partner of that charity. So guys, what are you waiting for? Check out Sidekick to protect your comic book collection. Power Pack Into the Storm. This is issue 1. This is a 28-page comic for $4. This book is created by Louise Simonson, who created the Power Pack, and the penciler here is June Brigman. The artwork is okay in here. I think it tries to go for like this 80s style of artwork, but for me, I don't know if it works with the modern day colors per se. And I don't know. I just thought the characters looked a little bit wonky. And to tell you the truth, guys, I'm not a Power Pack guy. I never read anything that had to deal with Power Pack in the past. So I was like, oh, is there going to be something here that's going to get me into these characters? And really what this story is about these kids. What is it? Like Julie and Alec and Katie Power, who are trying to like convince their parents, like, if we had powers, wouldn't that be cool? And then like their parents are like, no, that would be absolutely horrible. So they have these powers, but basically they're hiding their powers from their parents. Franklin Richards is in this comic book as he's having these dreams, and this book completely lost me when they go into this world called Snarkland. I just couldn't take it seriously because it was just like, it just reminded me of like, I don't know, My Little Pony Seahorse World or something like that. I just couldn't get into this book, man. So for me, this book is just not worthy. And it's probably just because I've never read Power Pack to begin with. There's no connection for me to these characters. And I think it's just too late for me to get into these characters. So for me, at the end of the day, I just, for you guys, you might like this. But for me, this was a D book. It was just very lackluster, very boring. There was just a lot of dialogue that constantly harped on just like, oh, what would it be if we had powers? And can we tell our parents how we have powers? And again, this might be a welcome treat for longtime fans, but for me, this didn't make the bill today. Thrawn Alliances. This is issue 1, or I should say Star Wars Thrawn Alliances issue 1. Now, I have not read a Star Wars book in quite some time here. Okay, this book is 40 pages for $6. So right from the start, I feel like this book is a little bit overpriced for what it is. The writer here is Timothy Zahn and Jody Houser. So they both have writing duties here. The art is done by Pat O'Leaf. The art is okay in this comic. I thought that there was more Padme than I would have liked in this comic. We get to see some scenes with Darth Vader and Admiral Thrawn in here. Now, I was a fan of the novels back in the day. I thought those are really well written, and I wanted to see what Timothy Zahn actually, did here in the comic book, right? So what happens in this particular issue is we wind up seeing, I guess, why it's called Alliances is we get to see, alliances happen, and it's from the past and it's from the present, and we get to see basically Thrawn in the past align with Anakin Skywalker, and then we get to see Thrawn align with Vader, and we get to see their two totally point of different views on certain things that happen, right? And obviously Anakin sees things differently because of his way towards the dark side and everything that's happened to him. And then obviously Thrawn, we get to see his different point of view on things because of just the way he is, right? At the end of the day, though, I thought this book was just okay for me, so I'm going to say it's worthy for now, but this didn't blow my mind in any stretch of the imagination. I was actually kind of bored with it. I expected something a little bit more than just a bunch of Darth Vader and Admiral Thrawn standing around and actually Padme, in this comic book. Do I want to see a story from the past that has to do with Anakin Skywalker and Padme? Oh my God, Anakin. I don't want to see that shit, right? So I am a fan of these two characters. I am a fan of one of the writers here. So I'm going to give this a C, an average grade, and see where the second issue takes us. Hopefully it goes in a more positive direction. Otherwise, after that, I'm probably going to drop it if it doesn't pick up the pace a little bit. The Resurrection of Magneto. This is issue 1. This book is a 40-page comic for $6. And this is written by Al Ewing, and the art is done by Luciano Vecchio. I don't know if I said that. This book has some gorgeous artwork, and the coloring here by David Curell is outstanding. I love all the scenes in this comic. Whatever this guy is, I think his name was Tarn the Uncaring, who changes himself in all these different forms and stuff like that, was awesome. But seeing these battle scenes, the hair, everything about this artwork in here is just absolutely top notch. Now, when you have a book written from Al Ewing, you can expect things to go way out there. For instance, right, you read Immortal Hulk, right? If you read Immortal Hulk, you know what I'm talking about. So some of his books, for me, really go way out there. It's the same thing for Thor for me. It's just it's way out there. And this book does that once again, but it's pretty awesome, okay? So Storm has this dream about Magneto, and it triggers her to go and find his soul, right? So she goes to this this particular portal, right, that will take you between life and death. And Wanda created this bridge for the mutant souls to go to when they die. So Storm wants to go to this world to wind up recovering, I guess, the soul of Magneto, right? Because we need him back in the battle. And you get to see her go to this waiting room, and she comes across all these different, Sentinel beings, or these different types of beings in general, like the Living Tribunal and Death, and just, all these different characters. And you wind up seeing her go through this battle, and she goes through, the trial and tribulations that Magneto went through. And what Al Ewing does in this book, he just takes you for this crazy, crazy journey. And it's just oh my God. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of it, she winds up in the same place that Magneto wound up going to at the beginning of this comic when you read it. And you get to see him at the end on what he's kind of going through, right? This comic book is worthy. If you can get through Al Ewing's crazy, thought process here and take your time and read this and digest this into your brain, this is a really really well thought comic book. Interesting to see where issue 2 is going to go, if it gets even weirder. But again, you just got to take your time with Al Ewing stuff. But my God, this book looks amazing, and I love seeing Storm here. I love how we just focused on her journey. So really good book. I definitely suggest that you guys pick this one up. I'm going to give this one a B plus though. It's not an A just because it can be overwhelming for certain readers. All right, so here is the review I think a lot of us are waiting for here, and this is Comic Tom's 101's comic book, right? So this is called Crashdown. This is issue 1. It's written by Comic Tom Garcia, and Ryan Sargent, which is Fire Guy Ryan, okay? This book was published by Whatnot, and it is a $3.99 comic, so it's $4. The artwork in this book is actually pretty good in the beginning. It's very dark. You get to see there's tragedy that happens, and then you wind up getting introduced to the main characters in this book, which I felt that the art itself, when it came to the characters, I thought could have been a little bit better. In my eyes, it was just felt like the characters look like they were drawn for more like a lighthearted comic than more of a science fiction comic, right? So that was my issue with the artwork, but it is serviceable and it does do the job, and it does introduce you to a bunch of characters that are about to embark on a mission to find a planet for human life to live on, because the earth is about to die. It looks like the sun is going out, and we get these selected few people that are going on this spaceship. We see a husband and a wife, we see a doctor, we see, just other people. And there is a little bit of funny humor in this comic book when it comes to oatmeal, which I thought was funny, but otherwise, besides that, it's a much more serious comic in when people read it, and you get to learn the mission objectives, and things are not perfect. And that's what I did like about this comic book. The story was very engaging. You felt the journey going to the place, the problems that they suffered on their way, and then once they get to the new planet, there's definitely problems along the way, and there's something that happens to the female character that the other astronauts or explorers don't know about yet. They just recover her. So there's a lot of mystery there as well. So I'm going to deem this book worthy. I think Comic Tom and Fire Guy Ryan did a solid job here. It definitely warrants an issue 2 here, and I love how, he put himself out there, being that he's a YouTuber and everything else, to create his own comic book. So again, even though the art's not perfect, I did find the story engaging. I'm going to give this one an A-. I was actually really impressed here. I can't wait for the second issue. There's definitely lots of mystery here. Ghost Machine issue 1. This is a 64-page comic for $5. This book is done by Jeff Johns, Peter J. Tomasi, Ivan Reese, Francis Menopole, Brian Hitch, Gary Frank, Jason Fabek, Lamont McGee. There is so many people attached to it. This is the newest imprint, done in Image Comics, where it's introducing this universe of characters, okay? The artwork is very well done. Now, again, there are different stories in here, so if you were expecting full feature-length stories of everything that's going on in this imprint, you might be a little bit disappointed. You're probably going to think, well, what's the difference here between Distillery issue 1 and Ghost Machine issue 1? Because they're both sampler books, and people sometimes don't want to pay for sampler books. Here is the difference between Ghost Machine and Distillery. 1, Ghost Machine was $10. And this one is $5. When it came to Distillery, their pages on their stories, their samplers, were like 2-3 pages. Didn't do enough to get you involved into the characters in those particular stories, right? What I felt this book did a lot better on is you did have an idea already that this imprint was coming out. You did understand, if you followed, you knew who Geiger actually is because he's had his own 2 previous series. There was a mention of Redcoat in the past, right? So there are certain things that you already knew about some characters. Also, like Junkyard Joe, he also had his own series. We learned about this timeline a long time ago. Okay, so there's already some kind of establishment. Now, the key thing that this book actually had going for it is if you took the time here, this gives you everything about every character. Geiger, profile, first appearance, what the characters went through. Junkyard Joe, same thing, right? Everything that you need to know about the character is right here. And I found myself totally vested into learning all about these characters. It made me feel more attached. And that's what you need for new comic books that are being introduced, especially new characters, right? This was really cool to see. And every time you got a new story, you got to read the sampler story, which was a good, like in this one, this Exodus story, this Rook Exodus. This was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-page comic, right? And then it gives you everything about some of these characters here. This was actually my favorite story. This was really cool. Terraformed Earth, people sent there from Earth to kind of create this world and have these helmets that control animals. Really super freaking cool. And then they also have like their family universe as well. And it just gives you everything and anything about all the characters introduced in all the stories. So again, you feel attached to it. This is what I'm talking about. If you do a new imprint and you do a sampler, this is how you do it. You make it a little bit more affordable. You give some good character details, and I felt the stories were very entertaining in my opinion. So this book is worthy. So if you're looking to get into Jeff Johns' new universe, just take the time and read this. Don't skip over the profile stuff. That's the most important things. Take the time, read the book. Don't just skim over and be like, oh, this is boring shit. I don't care about this. That's what you need to learn about the characters, right? So at the end of the day, for a sampler and for like an anthology book, I'm not a fan of this stuff, but the way it was done here, it was done right, and it has me intrigued in this entire line. Now, we'll wait and see what happens, right, when it comes to the books being released, if they'll be any good in the long run, but for now, this is an A+ book for me, man. I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens. So there you have it, guys. There are my thoughts on the newest #1s that came out for the week that I read. So I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below, especially what you thought of Comic Tom 101's comic book. And as always, guys, if you want to see everything that I picked up for the current comic book week, just check out my latest comic book haul, and then stay tuned for Monday where I read the rest of the books and I talk about the rest of those books. So as always, guys, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but as always, guys, read the comics. I'll see you real soon. Thank you so much for watching.